I'm delighted to, I'm going to hand over very quickly, but I'm delighted this next panel, which is going to be hosted by Patrick van Waes from Primient Covation. So please put your hands together, and I'm sure Patrick will then introduce his guests. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Today I have here on stage 3 companies that are serving a variety of markets with bio-based, bio-renewable materials. And it's going to be very interesting to hear from them how they bring bio-renewable materials in those markets, helping B2B and B2C industries to reduce their environmental impact. One is in the footwear space, which is Insite. The other one is around heat transfer fluids, which is called Climalife. And the other one is in polymers, resin space for the coatings and adhesives industry, BCH. But I'll let them introduce themselves because they can do that much, much better. So Delphine, you can start introducing yourself, your company, and a little bit about your activities.
Thank you, Patrick. So I am Delphine Martin. I am Global Marketing Manager at Climalife. I work more than 25 years in refrigeration, air conditioning, and heat pump industry. I am the specialist about working fluids to help the industries, of course, to reduce the carbon footprint, but also to optimize the energy efficiency. And since 1874, Climalife has been the specialist of thermodynamics and technical fluids for HVAC industry. We were the pioneer in responsible refrigeration with the introduction of recovery and reclaim product to eliminate, of course, fluorinated greenhouse gases. And so Climalife continue, of course, to develop environmental approach and to accelerate the circular economy. And in fact, so 12 years ago, we decided to introduce a new heat transfer fluids in our portfolio to, of course, to reduce the carbon footprint. And so we formulate and develop a new one. It's Green-101. And Green-101, it's an heat transfer fluids based with Sustera raw materials to use in different industries like building, food, or energy.
Thank you. Søren?
Hi, my name is Søren Focken from BCH. I work for BCH for 14 years now. BCH is a family-owned company existing for over 30 years. And we are a raw material supplier for resin, coatings, and inks industry. Main market is UV curable products. So we are mainly supplying photodinamics, acrylate monomers, oligomers, and we are already a part of that, developing products, bio-based products, also bioacrylates. And we got to learn about Covation and Sustera, and we developed together a product 1.3 propane diol diacrylate. And this is meant for UV curable products. Our main market will be, I think, wood coatings, but also other UV curable coatings. It could replace HDDA. And especially in the wood industry, where the cost is a very important factor, we think we found a very suitable bioacrylate, which can be affordable and also very good in their properties.
And we go in a little bit more in depth on the applications a bit later. Jake?
Well, my business is quite a ways away from what they're doing, but so I do insoles for footwear. If you see anything that's Skechers, from Insite, that's what we do for multiple companies. We really go through the science of foot health. So we have our patented shape that we use. We use a lot of biomaterials through Sustera to be able to have high performance. And what we found is that we're actually having higher performance insoles with getting the bio content. Anything up to 70% is what we offer currently. everyone's going towards the goal of trying to get up to as close to 100% as possible to be better for the environment, but also having the best chemistry out there to be able to have the best products on the market. So continuing to work through that and drive solutions with Sustera and find the best products we can for bio-based.
Jake, can you elaborate a little bit about the strategy of your company concerning bio-based, bio-renewable, and the product offering development you're doing?
Yeah, so for us, we really are looking to not only push bio-based, we also want to push the performance. We really lead with performance, and bio-based just happens to be a benefit to it. With the structure, we're seeing higher resiliencies, lower densities of poured PU foams, open-celled foams. Getting that performance benefit out is really what we go after, and bio-based is another part of that, to be as environmentally friendly as possible and be able to have the performance that supports that as we go forward.
Delphine, for your company Climalife, you have a big range of products, petroleum-based, bio-based. How is your company looking at all the bio-renewable, more environmental friendly solutions? How important is that for your company strategy?
It's very important for us to help industry to decarbonize, and particularly when we use heat transfer fluids, generally it's combined with refrigerants. And so for that, the best combination today is to go to very low GWP refrigerants, so global warming potential, and also to associate biosource HTF if we want to reduce the carbon footprint and also to optimize the energy efficiency. Because if you compare biosource HTF to fossil fuels HTF like MPG or MEG, you will see that with biosource HTF you can reduce the viscosity. So if you reduce the viscosity in the system, of course you will reduce the consumption of energy. So this is very key for the future.
Certainly, if I understood well, bio-renewable, bio-based materials, that's sort of the core what you're doing now in your new developments?
Yeah, for new developments, definitely. We are still dealing mainly with petrol-based chemicals because that's the demand of the market currently, to still have affordable products because there's a lot of price pressure in the market usually. But for new developments, we focus on bio-based products, not only acrylates, also photoinitiators. But yeah, it will all go in the bio-based direction, and our main focus is to have the suitable properties, chemical properties, but also, of course, the pricing, which we know is important in this industry.
Here in the world bio markets, we have a huge variety of applications, markets, industry which are present. And since we have 3 companies here with a wide spread, I'll ask them to prepare some sort of success story to inspire you how it is already possible to bring in bio-based materials. I'll start with you, Jake.
Sure, why not? So my insole that I brought in for this was one we did for Arc'teryx. The entire point of this product was to be high bio content, and it was 50% bio. Performance outmatched everything they even worried about. The performance of this is the best that they had at the time, and we're continuing to grow that business. So this started off as a 20,000 pair program. We're currently doing about 800,000 pairs with them, just because the performance behind the bio-based material is that much better and superior to what we were seeing with some of the fossil fuels. So not only is it good for the environment, it's really good for the consumer and the products that are going out that are getting out in the market. So we're always driving for higher and higher bio content with performance lens in mind. Arc'teryx is a great example of that, to where they've found that solution and they're continuing to grow, trying to look at 70% right now. And if we can ever get to 100%, that would be the goal as we go forward.
For those in the room not knowing Arc'teryx, can you just maybe tell a little bit what they're doing?
Yeah, so Arc'teryx is an outdoor footwear brand. They do high-end outdoor products, for different athletes. They're based out of Canada. They're actually owned by Anta now, out of China. So they have a big portfolio. Their head office now is in Portland, Oregon, along with most of the rest of the products for footwear are based out of that area. So lots of opportunity and growth that they're seeing in the future, and the performance behind the products is what they're always growing for.
We're talking footwear here. what do you see in the footwear market as an evolution in biomaterials nowadays? Because 25, 26 billion pairs of shoes every year.
Yeah, so you're constantly growing. You're constantly looking for better bio-based products, better things for the environment. If it's closed loop, if it's whatever the next thing is, we're always looking for performance driven first. As long as the performance is there, we want to continue to drive this, and you're seeing better chemistry through bio-based materials to give our higher resiliency, better performing products. Longer lasting is another side to it as well. So we're always driving the products to make sure that each one of them is performance driven first.
Delphine, coming to you, cooling. We know there's champagne, there's beer breweries, there's a lot of cooling taking place. I'm sure you have a few interesting case studies as well to share.
It's clear that cooling, heating, air conditioning represent a lot of consumption of electricity today. And for food industry, just to have an idea, is more than 50%. So 50%, we need to optimize it. And as I explained just before, in our sector, we have a lot of regulation to reduce the carbon footprint. And particularly for food industry, we have many examples. But I will take the first one that we did because it was so interesting. It was for a production site in France. Danone decided to change their refrigeration system, and they would like to optimize the energy efficiency, the performance. And so they decided to go to Greenway Neon. Why? It was very simple. Because if you take the MSDS of Greenway Neo, you will see that we have no pictogram. And no pictogram significate that with Sustera, Greenway Neo, you can use it. It's not toxic. And it was a dedicated production site to produce the food for the baby. So, of course, they have a key interest to go to this way. They have it's not dangerous, and they can use it, and they can optimize their system. So it was a good one. But it's clear that today we are using it in many applications. As you mentioned, for champagne, for example, also we are using it, but also for the stadium of football. But we can use it also for ice rink. We can use it also in geothermal heat pump, for example, but also solar panel. And we have always an advantage compared to the fossil fuels. So it's a good alternative for us.
Can you share the one with the soccer field around the toxicity that happened there? I think that's an interesting one to see about safety and products.
Yes, it's clear because you imagine that when you produce food, it's very key that you have a product that is not toxic, because you never know. You can have a leak in the system and you can have an issue in the food. Why we decide also to certify our product as with NSF. So it's certified like NSF HT1. What it means, if you have an accident, you have a very low risk to a very low risk. So this is very key. And it's very well recognized in Europe, because we are the only producer to have heat transfer fluids without any risk. So this is very good.
Okay. Søren, in your case?
Yeah, we have already successfully implemented a lot of bioacrylates in the past, but since our main industry is in the UV industry, so in the past we haven't successfully implemented a bioacrylate suitable for UV curing, and so that was what we were struggling with in the past, apart from the success of the other bioacrylates. But now we see this as a success of research and development, and also in the partnership to actually be able to supply this new acrylate suitable for the UV industry. So we are looking forward to that.
You're serving the coatings industry as a big market for your products.
Yes.
Last week we were at Bio-Based Coatings together. how do you see the coatings industry moving forward into more environmental solutions? There is the retailers that require, like IKEA, that require wood coatings on their furniture. But how do you see all the parties in between accelerating that?
Yeah.
Or are there too many obstacles?
No, we are in contact with customers, with coatings customers for a long time already, and they are asking, well, most of them are asking for these products. They just need an affordable working product, and that's what we are now able to supply. It's just currently about to commercialize, so we're in the first step, but it's going to be soon launching. So yeah, we're very optimistic that it's going to be a great product.
Delphine, from your perspective, I assume with your offering you still also have certain obstacles that have to be met to accelerate getting more fluids in there.
It's clear, and of course, people, when you talk about a new product, when you talk about biosourced product, of course, the price is totally different to fossil fuel product. But first things that we try to explain to the market is we don't need to focus about just to focus about the price. When we decide to change the refrigeration system or air conditioning system, first things that we need to do is to see the total cost of ownership. So we try to explain to our client, okay, at the capex can be a little bit more higher, but if you take your system for 10 years or 15 years, you will see that at the end you will win, because you will optimize, so you will reduce the consumption of electricity, and in parallel, of course, you will reduce also your carbon footprint. So this is very important when you decide to change your system, to check what is possible. We have many alternatives, but I think that with Greenway Neoen we can have a lot of success because you can reduce it. That's all. And we help people to decarbonize their industry. So this is very important.
Jake, in footwear, you're working with all the big brands, Nike, Adidas, some of the brands that are here. I assume you see also a whole bunch of obstacles that they put in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, from the footwear side, I think the consumers have gotten to a point where they just expect that we're doing the right thing. And that's with every footwear brand. You're going to be either using biomaterials, you're doing recycled content, you're doing something that's better for the environment. That's the expectation. The key is, how do we do that at an affordable price? When you get high bio content, the price generally goes up. We try to be cost efficient or cost neutral at 25% bio to get that into the market. We'll take a lower margin in order to be able to get that product into the market. The brands at the same time are trying to, maximize their profitability as well. So how do we work with them to find the best solutions at the best cost? How do we get more bio-based material into the product? Is having more companies doing it. Our competitors putting more product that has bio-based into it, that'll bring down the cost. That'll get it easier to be digestible for the brands to be able to put in as well. So the consumers always think that we're doing the right thing. We're trying to make the products right. We're trying to do the right thing for the future. How do we continue to do that and be cost efficient at the same time? It's the biggest obstacle we come across is, hey, let's move up to 50% bio. Let's move to 70% bio. Okay, the price is 20% higher. How do we continue to do that and create a margin that's respectable for both us and the brands as we go forward?
I'll stay with you. I think 2 years ago, I saw a market research report on consumers in US about bio-based acceptance in performance, in willingness to buy. From my perspective, what I see missing a bit is the communication to these consumers. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, I think the communication that goes out, the brands are working within their own silos. I was with Nike for 23 years before I came over to Insite. So during that time, you kind of get stuck in your own storytelling of what's going on. And so as you do that, you'd really need to kind of go out to the consumers and see what they're willing to spend, what they're willing to do, what they're really looking for. And having that clear communication out to them about what's making this product better, more efficient, better for the environment, longer lasting, or biodegradable, or whatever it needs to be. Those are the stories that need to be told. How do we get that storytelling out to the consumers from the brands and from our side as well, from producing the product. So continuing to do that, we have our marketing team in-house that's always creating hang tags or something else, or creating storytelling on the websites or LinkedIn, to be able to make sure people understand what the true value of this product is and why there is maybe an increase in the retail price at some point.
Delphine, with Climalife, you're also a little bit further away from the end consumer, like you're mentioning heat pumps and so. How do you try to bridge that so that consumers become the pull consumer that has a big impact or can have potential impact?
So it's clear that today we do not have a lot of regulation concerning heat pump, for example, to go to a biosource product. But we organize a lot of conferences. We are very present in different seminars to explain the advantage of this product, and this is very key. And we have many discussions with end users to convince them, and after, so they can convince also the contractors. Okay, because in the value chain, the end user, of course, they are not doing the choice at the end, about the technology, the architecture, but they can advise to go to biosource product for the advantage that I mentioned before. And this is very important. So it's what we are doing, and also for that, we try to show to the market the different possibilities that they have. If they go with heat transfer fluids with MPG or MEG, you can see that you have many disadvantages. What I mean, for example, for heat pump market, with Green Neo, it's a biodegradable product. So in fact, if you have a leak also, you will minimize the risk of the pollution, So this is very important. But we need to repeat the message to all the value chain to be sure that people will understand why it's very important now to switch and to go to work in the different way.
Value chain you're mentioning, sir, and how do you see there the obstacles that you have to bridge? Because the IKEAs of this world are quite distanced away from what you guys are doing.
Yeah, for every new product in the chemical industry, as we all know, there's always issues of the legal issues like REACH. You have to invest in the REACH codes. You have to evaluate first if it's even potential toxicity, which we already did with your help. And so you have to already see what this product is going towards, is it toxic or not, and then you have to check for bio products the LCA data, because customer will ask for that. So you have to invest a lot of research and money to get this product to launch, which is why we had to search and look specifically and exactly what product are we going to launch, and that's why you also need a strong partner with the supply chain going.
Scope 3 emissions, greenhouse gas emission reduction, if you look at probably some of the companies or most of the companies here in the room, they all have their goals. Yeah. Life cycle assessment, is that something that you see becoming extremely important?
Yes, definitely. So especially, not only, but especially for bio-based products. So with every bio-based product we are going to launch or promoting to a customer, we get this question, definitely.
Is that same for you, Delphine?
It's clear, you know that if we want to achieve neutrality carbon in 2050 in Europe, we need to help absolutely the industry to evaluate their carbon footprint. And so LCA is very key if we want to calculate the different scope, and it's something that it will help for the future. And if you compare, and this is very interesting because Sustera provide us the last LCA, and we can see, for example, if we want to produce 24 tons of MPG, so monopropylene glycol, so in this case, I will take the number because they didn't but just to have an idea, for this example, 24 tons tons of production of MPG, it's equal to 32 tons of greenhouse emission. You imagine? If I do the same things with Green Renault, with Sustera, in this case, I will have only 5 tons. So this is very key for the future. For the decarbonization, I think that we need just to explain to the people how it works.
Do you see the same with
Yeah.
your...
For us, we constantly get asked for the LCA and transparent communication. We always want to have the most transparent, visible communication with all the brands that we work with, have that go all the way down to the consumers if it needs to. But working with you guys about the LCA, trying to figure out the carbon emissions reduction of what, 84%, I believe. You know, it really helps to tell a story, really helps to show the impact you can have. You know, like you said, there's hundreds of millions of pairs of shoes being sold every single year. Half of those end up in landfills. What are we going to do to make sure it's made in a more transparent way, and we're using the right materials as we go forward? So it's constant questions that we have with every brand to just be as open and available as possible, and providing those LCAs and that data without greenwashing at all is fantastic to have the help and support from Sustera.
Maybe as a final question, might be a bit more difficult, but what could accelerate the adoption of your bio-based, more environmental friendly offering versus the petroleum-based offering?
I mean, for us in our industry, it really comes down to performance. The product performs better. Generally, people are going to pay a little bit more or use it a little bit more. As we continue to try to push through to get 50% bio, 70% bio, and the ever goal of 100% bio at some point, hopefully, you know, the adoption is just more and more people starting to use it. We had this conversation earlier about recycled polyester and whatnot. So if companies would just switch over to everyone using recycled polyester, you're probably going to bring the cost down of that material. Same in this. The more material that's out there being used, the more benefit the consumer sees, the more that the cost can be driven down and bring more of the product to the market. So as long as we continue to do that and continue to put more and more of the product out, I think we can continue to get that to the athletes.
Delphine, in your case?
As I mentioned, we do not have a lot of regulation concerning the use of fossil fuel products. So we need absolutely to continue to communicate about the performance of the product, the interest to go in this way, and to, yes, if we want to reduce our carbon footprint, the emission. So this is very key. So our target is just to show to the market that it works. And we continue to produce and to communicate about different case studies that we are doing, just to prove that it's better for the environment. And yes.
And what could accelerate your adoption, the adoption of your products, Søren?
I think basically it's 3 points. First is price and availability of the feedstock source material, and then it's customers' demand and maybe also customers' decisions, like big corporates, like you mentioned, IKEA, to go for a certain percentage of bio. And if that's definite, then the suppliers have to adapt and have to implement bio-based materials. And third, but yeah, that's more like optional, because this would be legal, in this case, legal support to implement a law that goes with some bio-based content, but I don't think that's been the case so far.
Yeah. You're operating in different regions. Do you see the 2050 goal in Europe being very helpful by talking to customers? You still have a 1 minute to answer that one. So what European Commission tries to force to defossilize by 2050, is that a pull at this moment, or is just like 2050 is still a long way?
So for the European Commission currently is in the UV industry a bit of a challenge, I would say, independent from the bio-based question, because there are a lot of reclassifications going on, and so I think a lot of customers are more focused on the reclassification issue than maybe focusing solely on bio-based materials. So I think it's more an obstacle as of right now, than a big help. my opinion.
I think from my side, the brands all have their own goals, and so us being able to support that in any way, if it's midsoles, outsoles, uppers, whatever it is finding those solutions for them and continuing to drive. I mean, that's going to be the biggest obstacles. Everyone has their own internal goals to hit by 2028, 2030, 2050 is something for European, but you know, we're continuing to push that as we go through the evolution of how do we get to lower carbon emissions with all of our products.
Delphine, last comment?
Yes, it's similar, you know, and we need to continue absolutely to accelerate. So the circular economy is our first target, and circular economy is also to use, you know, bio-based product and to reduce the carbon footprint. So we have no choice, and but people need to understand.
Okay, thank you. Big applause for these three companies that have a variety of markets